Hey everyone, and good morning, and welcome to Trinity Online. We are so thankful that you decided to join us this Sunday. My name is Trey Warren. I'm one of the pastors here, and like always, I'm joined by my sidekick,
Joel Milligan. And this morning, Trey, I selected a shirt.
Yeah.
And here's why I'm pumped about this shirt. You own the same shirt.
I do own the same shirt.
That means I'm in style, ladies and gentlemen. I have the same shirt that Trey has. And if you would have wore it.
I almost wore it today. I legitimately almost did. And by the way, let me retract a little bit. He's not my sidekick. I know I said my sidekick. And we're not Batman and Robin. We're Batman and Batman.
I'm fine being a sidekick.
No. We're
it's
Batman
okay.
and Batman. My partner. Partner in crime.
Oh, partner.
Yes, there we go.
Okay.
We are equal. So we are so glad that you decided to join us. If you are a member here and you constantly watch and join us online, thank you so much for joining us and being a part of our church family. And if you're a first-time guest, here's what we want you to do. Text the word GIFT, right?
Free gift.
That's right, to 94090. Text the word free gift to 94090, and we have something special for you, even if I'm watching online, even if you're watching online. And I'm gonna save you the trouble this week. Here's what we want you to do. We want you to like and share the video because sharing is
caring.
Yes, put it in the chat. Sharing is caring. Sharing is caring. Again, thank you so much for being here. We've had a lot going on these past couple weeks, haven't we?
Wait, are you Iron Man and I'm Spider-Man?
No, because that's still like a sidekick.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Because he's like his mentor now. We're Batman and Batman. It's the same. It's the same
stuck
thing.
in my head. I'm trying to figure out.
Don't get lost in the analogy.
But we have had a lot going on. So great to see the turnout for Food Truck Friday, an event that we do once a month for our community. We just had it on Friday at both Oakleaf and here at Hammond. Food trucks, watched a great movie.
Yeah.
Met some new people.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone had to sit on the ground because they forgot their chair.
Yeah.
But love these events. If you hadn't had a chance to come to one, it's great for your family just to get together.
Yes.
But it's also an easy invite to invite your neighbor or your coworker.
Yeah.
So Food Truck Friday, huge hit this past Friday.
Okay. So one of Daniel Riddick's and Josh Evans' favorite thing that comes to Food Truck Friday is Mr. Potato Spread.
Yes.
So I have a quick question survey for you. What are your top 3 fries places in Jacksonville?
Okay, I can do this. So my top 3 fries.
Yes.
Top free fries?
Top
3 fries
Yeah.
are.
Where are you getting free fries at?
Listen, I'm a huge, I'll go with 3 to 1. Okay, 3 to 1. So my third place, and this is gonna shock you just a little bit. My third place is Whataburger.
That's not shocking at all.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, they have some real, and if you get their spicy ketchup, it's pretty good. Whataburger's 3. My second, I've just got to go with Old Faithful. There's something about a hot thing of McDonald's fries.
Okay, we're going all fast food right now. No local places so far.
No.
Okay, all fast food.
All fast food. But then this last one, I'm going to stick with fast food. That's my theme. Okay. Chick-fil-A waffle fries.
Really? Chick-fil-A.
I love their waffle fries, so don't hate.
Do you dip them in ketchup or do you dip them in Chick-fil-A sauce?
Chick-fil-A sauce.
Okay.
All right, how about you?
I would go with number 3, Whataburger.
Okay.
I would go with probably number 2 being BurgerFi. I love BurgerFi's fries.
Okay.
And number 1, I'm gonna go with Steak and Shake. I love Steak and
Really?
Shake's little shoestring
Oh,
fries.
yeah, it's real skinny.
You can never get enough of them. I always get a side order of fries when I go there. It's very rare that I go there, but I do go there.
Okay.
So that's my top 3.
It's a good list.
Yes, Food Truck Friday, great time together. It was absolutely amazing.
Definitely.
Coming up, the deadline to sign up for Spring Retreat, which is where our students are going. We're taking both Hammond, Oakleaf, 6th through 12th grade to Trinity Camp and Retreat Center.
Boom.
The deadline to sign up for this retreat is this Wednesday.
Yes.
This Wednesday. So if you're like, I have not signed them up yet, you need to do it by this Wednesday. That will be the deadline because we head out on Friday.
We do.
It's gonna be a great time together. We're gonna help students learn and discover how they are one of a kind. They are one of a kind. It'll be so much fun. It's like trying to fit a whole week of camp into like 2 days. It's fun. It's packed full of just a ton of things to do. When they come back, they will be exhausted. We promise you that.
Yes.
They will crash on your couch. They will we will run them hard. So you need to sign them up by this Wednesday. Joel, how can they sign up?
Okay, so you can do it 2 ways. I'll just give the easiest way. Go to tbc.org/students. Right at the top of the page, you'll see our upcoming events, spring retreats right there, and click register. Costs $99 per camper.
Yeah.
Definitely worth it.
Yeah.
And we've still got a little bit of room. We had great sign-ups so far, but
Yeah.
we still got a little bit of room for a couple other students to come.
Yeah, it'll be a great time together down at Trinity Camp and Retreat Center. Plug in, last week we could not figure out the URL for camp, so if you want to donate to camp or you just want to check it out and see, I want to visit, I need to know how to get in contact with these people, go to trinity-camp.org.
Nailed it.
Trinity-camp.org. Mike, you're welcome. We made it right this week. Trinity-camp.org. That's the last time I'll say it. But go ahead, check them out. If you feel led to, give to them. They do a great job preparing a place and having a safe place, a clean place where our students can come feel comfortable and get in God's Word and set aside some just really solid time away with the Lord.
Now, Trey, we're in week 3 of our What's Love Got to Do with It series. And as we've been saying each week, we are doing a giveaway basket at both locations. It's got some great stuff in it. We talked about a throw blanket, Ruth's Chris gift cards, got some cool board games in it that I saw the other day, some discussion starters with your family.
Yeah.
Really neat giveaway. So you can sign up either in person, you can sign up in the lobby, but if you're watching online right now, you can still enter to win each Sunday, and you do that by texting giveaway to 94090, and you will be entered to win this giveaway basket.
What is the most frustrating board game you've ever played?
I would have to say the one that was most difficult for me to figure out, it actually, excuse me, is related.
You're getting choked up.
I know, I am. It's related to everything going on in 2020. Have you played that board game called Pandemic?
No, I've not.
There is a board game called Pandemic, and I've heard it's really fun when you figure it out, but I tried, and man, it hurt my head to figure out all the rules in it. So that's the hardest one I've tried so far is Pandemic.
The most frustrating game to me is Sorry. I don't like that game. It creates enemies. That Monopoly, because it's like you make choices to create enemies on those games, and it just never ends well with our family.
Yep.
So those are the two most frustrating. But yes, it's full of board games, discussion starters, a throw blanket.
It's pretty comfortable.
I know, that'll get you excited. So we're giving that away. So sign up. It'll be you need to sign up. That's all we're saying.
Yes.
Sign up for the giveaway. We are in, like Pastor Joel just said, in week 3 of our series, What's Love Got to Do with It? And today we are learning what love is not.
Oh.
I'm not going to preach. I'm not going to start that train again. We're going down that road again. But what love is not, and we know our pastors have prepared just an amazing message for us. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to lean in. We're going to be expectant for what God has to say for us today. Say to us today. So let's go into this worship experience ready and expectant to hear from God.
I saw Satan fall like lightning. I saw darkness run for cover. But the miracle that I just can't get over, my name is registered in heaven. I believe in signs and wonders. I have resurrection power. Still the miracle that I just can't get over, my name is registered in heaven. My praise belongs to you forever. Oh, this is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify. Together, sons and daughters, washed in blood and washed in water. Sing the praises of the Spirit, Son, and Father. Our God will finish what He started. And our God will finish what He started. Oh, this is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story, and I'll testify. By Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. Greater things are still to come. No, I believe. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. For greater things are still to come. No, I believe. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. Greater things are still to come. No, I believe. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. No, I believe. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify. By Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. Oh, I'm alive. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify. By Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony.
Hey everybody, welcome to Trinity Church Online. I'm so glad that you're here today, no matter where you're watching from. Like our host said in the very beginning, if you're watching this online, especially on one of our social media channels, you can hit like or share and invite somebody else into the broadcast today. If you're joining us for the very first time, thank you for being here. We don't take your participation for granted. In fact, we have a gift we'd love to send to you, just as our way of saying thank you for watching with us today. And right now, you can grab your phone and text the word free gift. If you're joining us for the first time, text the word free gift to 94090. We'd love to send that to you, just as our way of saying thank you for being with us. By the way, if you watch with us every single week, we're glad you're here. Everybody, you're joining us on a great week. It is part 3 of our series all about love and relationships, called What's Love Got to Do With It? The good thing about this series is that it's all about relationships, and everybody watching me today is in some kind of a relationship. Maybe it's a marriage relationship between husbands and wives. Maybe it's the mom and dad or student-parent relationship. Maybe it's relationships with your siblings, your coworkers, or neighbors. But I don't know about you, but we could all grow and strengthen our relationships together. This series is going to focus us deep in on the love of Jesus Christ. And today, for part 3, we have the privilege of hearing from our senior pastor, Pastor Tom Messer, who's going to pick up right where we left off last week in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Before we get into the Word of God today, we're going to go back into worship, and let's ask God to prepare our hearts for exactly what He has for us today.
For the walls to fall,
Hey, good morning, Trinity. Thanks for joining us today and watching our online worship services. And we're in the middle of a series. I always find this to be kind of energizing. I know what's coming ahead. I always look forward to that. And Easter's on the horizon. And we are doing some programming around our church, not just on Sunday. And I'm starting to see an uptick in activity. And really excited about getting to be at Oakleaf last week and see the people gathering, not just people gathering back, but new people that God is directing into our church. And sensing the same thing on our Hammond campus, and just a lot of good things really happening. So I really appreciate you plugging in today, and I want you to be praying about Easter, and let's aim at that as a target to impact our community as deeply as we possibly can. We're going to finish this series, What's Love Got to Do with It, and this week and next. And I think that you can find in this teaching series some really good practical biblical truth that'll help you in your relationships. And if Christians ought to be known for anything, they ought to be known for the way that they love one another. So we built this series along the idea of the song that really became synonymous with Tina Turner, her life, her biography. There's actually a movie about her life that carries that same title. And she does what so many pop culture people do, and people that set modern culture are oftentimes artists and political elites and academic elites, even media elites. And she expresses her view about love, and she talks about it in the chorus as being a secondhand emotion. And if you read it and understand where she's driving at, she's actually saying that there's some parts of love that are absolutely critical and necessary, and then there's a part of love that can really be painful and hurtful, and you almost have to pick and choose the kind of love that you're after. What Tina Turner is saying to us is what I think all of us have experienced, is if the love that we're getting is the love that is defined by the world, we're probably going to find it inefficient, ineffective, and deficient for what we're really looking for. But if we find the love that is described in the Word of God, that love is supernatural and life-changing. So we come to 1 Corinthians 13, the greatest, most famous chapter about love in all the Bible. And when you come here, you see that you can really be good with the outward indicators of love, that is, all the things that are done in there, verses 1 through 3, and still fall far short of the Christian ideal. You see this church at Corinth, like what I think we're seeing in the modern contemporary church, and I mean the present day church, and what we're seeing in modern present day culture is this, that the world and the church can struggle with carnality, with spiritual immaturity, with sexual sin, and have these deeply fractured relationships. And what's missing, what cures all of that, is the love of Jesus Christ being unleashed in our relationships. The lack of love will kill your relationships. It'll kill your marriages. It'll kill your family. It'll kill your church. It'll kill your community. And so Paul comes to this passage and he focuses on the superiority of love, the kind of love that flows not just out of your relationship with God, but from God himself, the love that is authentic, sacrificial, and selfless. Let me pick up in verse number 4 and just want to read this text for you just so that you can follow along and get a feel for the material that we're going to cover tonight or this morning, and let the Word of God really impact you. Charity, verse number 4, suffers long, is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. It does not behave itself unseemly. It seeks not her own, is not easily provoked, thinks no evil, rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. And then here's a capstone statement: love or charity never fails. If you skip down into verse number 9, for we know in part and we prophesy in part, but when that which is perfect is come, we're going to come back to that word, and that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. So this biblical idea, it's actually radical. It's countercultural. It's not just erotic love, physical love. It's not just affectionate, kind of the fan love. You're in love with the Jaguars because they got the number 1 pick. You may be bitterly disappointed week 3, but you love them now. It's not even brotherly love. The city of brotherly love, famously, Philadelphia has had some of the worst rioting and fractures among social classes. It's not that kind of love. It's actually the kind of love that flows from God. The love that is life-changing, the love that is selfless and sacrificial. We said this over the last couple of weeks. I love this statement. Pastor Daniel is the one that said it first, and I love it. Love, the right kind of biblical love, doesn't bring out the best in you, it brings out the Jesus in you. And what you see here is that charity or love in the Bible is a kind of love that flows or emanates from God himself. He is love. He's the source of love. And we'll come to that in a moment. The charity that is described in the Bible is supremely personified in Jesus. And I want you to think about the cross and his sacrificial death. And you see God's love in a different dimension. In fact, Paul talks about it, the height and the depth of the love of God, the fullness of God's love. And then charity or love, as it's indicated in the Bible, is the supreme evidence of Christian relationship. In other words, it is what Jesus said, by this shall all men know that you're my disciples if you have love one toward another. Wouldn't it be an amazing thing? Think about our church, think about the number of services we do across several campuses, and think about the entire breadth and scope of our ministry. Wouldn't it be amazing if when people heard about Trinity, the one thing they thought about this, man, those people sure do love one another in an unusual way. That's what Jesus said should be the mark of a disciple. John MacArthur, the loveless person, talking about 1 Corinthians 13, produces nothing. He's like sounding brass and tinkling cymbals. He is nothing. And even if he gives away his body to be burned and all of his goods to charity, he profits nothing. So what we got to find then is, what does it look like for us as we experience and then demonstrate or exercise Christ-like love? Now, let me just stop for a moment and touch base on this. I really want you to get this. I spoke online last week, then I spoke at Oakleaf. Tommy spoke at Hammond. Pastor Daniel's at Oakleaf today. I'm online, and then I'm going to be at Hammond as well. And what we've done is we've actually taken the same basic outline and content, and we're taking a dual run through this passage because it's so important. What we did last week is we talked about the source of love or the personality of love, the personification of love. Love comes from God. Then we talked about last week, the positive attributes of love. We're going to talk about the negative. And then we touched very briefly on this idea of the future of love, the perfection of love. What does love look like when it's fully realized in Jesus Christ? Now, I want to do this just really quick. When we talk about the source of love, we know 1 John 4:8, for example, that God is love. Now, that just simply means this. God is not loving only, right? He is love. So God doesn't just do love occasionally. He can't help but be loving because he is love himself. He's the source of all love. 1 John 4:16, same truth is taught there. God is love. So if God is not just loving, he is love. That means every characteristic of love, every quality of love, it just emanates and flows out of the character and nature of God. So what you have then in this passage of Scripture is not a list of rules or guidelines to keep. It's not a list of behaviors that you do. It is actually communicating to us what a loving God is like in his relationship with us. Now, I love to teach this, and it's one of those things that I can teach out of my long-term memory. God has communicable and incommunicable attributes. The incommunicable attributes of God are the things that it doesn't matter how close you get to God, you'll never become those things. All-knowing, all-powerful, omnipresent, those are impossible to be. But the communicable attributes of God, you can even wear a mask if you want in the presence of God. But if you get close enough to God, you can't help but become like him because those attributes are going to become transferable to you. Isn't it amazing that God doesn't say, here, do these things and you'll be a loving person? You know what God does? He does with us the same exact thing that we do with our children, or really now in my case with our grandchildren. If you want to teach your kids and your grandkids to love you, don't give them a list of things to do. Just love them with all your heart. And the more that you love them, they're going to love you. I love the illustration Tommy shared last week, and he did this on our Hammond campus, and I thought it was so good. I wanted to reiterate it, and we'll just move on. So if you think about your smartphone, and I realize, I always thought that what made my phone smart was that it was mine. I came to find out that the smartphone is smart, and then they give it to you, so you have nothing to do with that. But he used this analogy that if these apps on your phone represent your relationships, your phone has a capacity, if you will. It has the ability, because of its storage capacity, so to speak, of its power, to do incredible things. The only problem you have is that the phone actually has to be plugged into a power source, or your phone dies. And all of us have had that experience, right? Where you get down to there's 10%, 9%, 8%, 2%, and then you're right in the middle of the most important thing you're going to do, and the phone dies, right? It needs to be powered. If you'll think about this in all your relationships, all those relationships have capacity to do incredible things, but unless you are plugged into the source of love, into Jesus Christ himself, you cannot be the loving kind of Christian that God wants you to be. Now, that's the source of love. Let's go to this very quickly. Not just the source of love, but the practice of love. So it does not say you should be, for example, patient and kind. It says love is patient, love is kind. Or Jesus is love and Jesus is kind. Last week, we touched on the positive attributes of love. And this week, we're going to group these 8 characteristics of the negative attributes of love, and we're gonna pull them into really just kind of 4 little brief applications. And I'm going to kind of explain what that means, and then give you just a quick illustration to help you to grab it. So here are the applications, if you will, or the groupings of what these negative attributes of love is. So here's what: if love is patient and love is kind, Jesus is patient, is kind. Jesus, or love, does not envy or boast, which actually is really good, right? That means that a loving person is free not to make a name for himself, not to convince other people that they should be loved and accepted, but they actually live out of the acceptance and approval that God has already given to them. I think the Apostle Paul makes an incredibly insightful argument in Romans 3 and Romans 4 when he says this, that your boasting and your glorying is all for naught. Because what he's saying to us is, you cannot do enough things to win the favor and approval of God. God gives it to you as a gift. And so love is not trying to prove any point at all by envying and boasting. It's just living out of the overflow of God's unconditional love for you. You can quit trying. It's not just that it's not loving or it's not envy or boastful, but love is not arrogant or rude. That word that we translate here, rude, is to behave dishonorably. Think about what Jesus was in his life. Jesus did some amazing things, and he did some things that we find unusual. In fact, we find them in some cases very much countercultural in a good way. You can look at everything that Jesus did, even from turning the tables over in the temple, to the way that he treated women, to the way that he was kind to Gentiles and to Samaritans. And here's what you know about Jesus. He was never arrogant, never rude. He always acted in an honorable way. You know what that means? He knew who he was and where he came from and who it reflected. And as a result of that, he didn't just give us the gospel, he lived out the gospel. Here's the third thing. Love does not insist on getting its own way. In other words, this will help you. Let's get this down to real relationships, right? Love doesn't have to win every argument. In fact, can I tell you something? Your marriage will be better off if you lose a few arguments every once in a while. Jesus didn't come to demonstrate that he had to win. In fact, Jesus actually made the case. He equated losing with living, right? Giving your life away is key to gaining the whole world. Here's what Jesus is saying. Love has this paradoxical quality about it that if you really want love to come back on you, you don't try to get it. You got to be willing to give it up. You got to be willing to insist on not getting your own way. And then finally, love is not irritable or resentful. Love this. Again, some of you don't know, but we try to keep alignment in our teaching because we're doing it across multi-services, multi-campuses. And so I'm not the only one that influences preaching. And in fact, on Tuesday, when we were doing some prep on this, I asked Pastor Daniel to kind of dig into this second point. And listen to this thought. He showed me that the word that's used here when you talk about this whole idea is the same word for sour wine, or it could be translated sour wine. It is literally the same word that describes what Jesus tasted when they gave him. Remember they gave him that wine and vinegar on the cross? It was a numbing agent, so to speak, to try to help the people getting crucified to get through the pain and suffering. Jesus took on, if you will, the sour wine on the cross so that we could know the joy and the sweetness of salvation. Now you see, when you get this, you're actually getting this turned upside down for you, that love is not something that comes out of a morally restrained heart. Love is not something that you conjure up. Love is something that is so powerful that it comes out of the genuine overflow of God's love for you, and God's love for you can only come when you're empty of self. When you stop living as though you are the end all, be all, and you have to be in control of your outcomes. Your heart will not be changed until you encounter Jesus, until you stop trying harder and quit trying to do better, and you give up on morally restraining your life till you become a virtuous being, but you let Jesus' love for you completely change you. And when that happens, it changes everything about you, not just the practice of love, but the motivation of love. There's a great little story Charles Spurgeon used to tell, and he did it. You know, I've said before that you know, Edwards in the Great Awakening, his mantra was really this: that a religious person finds God beautiful, or finds God useful, and a Christian finds God beautiful. Spurgeon would tell this story to get across that same truth, that a certain gardener in a kingdom came across this huge carrot that he had grown in his garden, and he brought it to the king, and he said to the king, he said, "My lord, this is the greatest thing I've ever grown or will ever grow in my life, and I simply want to give it to you as a token of my love and respect for how great a king you are." And of course the king was flattered and humbled by it. And he said, "Hey, wait a minute." He said, "You're a man I can trust." He said, "I own the land next to you, and I want to give you that land, and you can do with it what you want. You can grow as many carrots as you would like." There was a man there, a nobleman who was at the court that day, and he overheard the conversation, and he began to do a little calculating. And so the next day, he shows up to the king and in court, and he has this beautiful horse. Now the king knows that the guy was there yesterday, and the king can see through this. And the nobleman brings this horse up, and he says, "This is the finest horse that I've ever bred or ever will breed. And I just want you to have it as a token of my esteem and respect for you, just because you are the great king that you are." And the king looked at him and figured it out and says, "Look, The gardener was giving me the carrot because he loved me. He was doing it for me. You're giving me the horse for you. He says, actually, you're giving the horse to yourself. The gardener was giving me what he gave me for my sake, but you are giving me what you're giving me for your sake. See, until your heart is transformed by love, you know what it's going to be? It's going to be all about you. You can try to be loving, you can try to be patient, you can try to be kind, but until Jesus changes your heart, you're only being that way because you want it to come back on you. So let's go to this last thought, the future of love. Now, in just a few minutes, let me get this across to you. So much of what it means to be a Christian is that you have a view of this world that goes beyond the present. There's no doubt that the scriptures teaches us that Christianity, knowing Jesus Christ, has the capacity to help make sense of your past, to strengthen you in the present circumstances, no matter what they are. But it also primarily gives you hope about the future. You see that in verse 10 when Paul says that love is aiming at something. It's aiming at that which is perfect. That word perfect comes from the Greek word teleos, which gives us an idea of telescope, which allows you to see into the future. And the idea behind that is that you are made for a purpose. You are designed for something. You are made to do something. There's something about God's creation of you that you can't get away from. A bird was made for the air. A fish was made for the sea. You say, what were you made for? Well, you and I were made, listen, we were not made to make money. We were not made to work. We were not made for achievement and accomplishment. You say, what were we made for? We were made to worship and glorify God forever. That's the purpose for which God made us. In other words, we were built to be face-to-face with God. And to be face-to-face with God is what it allows you to be fully known and fully loved. That's what he's driving at when you look down here in verse number 12, that then face-to-face. Now I know in part, then I shall know even as I am known. Every single one of us has this innate, inborn desire and need to be fully known and fully loved. Before the fall, Adam and Eve would walk with God in the cool of the garden in the midst of the day. They would be face-to-face with God. But then they fell into sin, and they hid themselves from the face of God. They were cut off. And when they were cut off, they began to live deficiently. And here's what Paul is writing to us here about love. If you need to be close enough to God where you experience his attributes, we lost the possibility of being face-to-face with God because of our sin. And the only way that we recovered that, the only way that we rediscovered that, the only way that we can get plugged back in, the only way that we can have the inner structure of the human heart rewired in a way that transforms us is that we have to be redeemed, we have to be saved, we have to be restored. Our relationship with God has to be renewed. That's where Jesus comes in. See, he didn't moralize or he didn't idealize his life in a way that would say, hey, look, God, I can live in such a way that you can overlook all the wrong that everybody else did. He actually lived in such a way that he never, ever deserved to be cut off from the face of God. And yet, on a specific day, for a specific reason, Jesus is hanging on the cross, and he reaches at that moment on the cross, he reaches the apex of the greatest need of all of his life, and he calls out to God, and God turns his back on him. So much so that this is what Jesus says. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Why have you forgotten me? Say, why did God allow Jesus, who is perfectly righteous, to experience that? So that you and I, through the redemption and salvation that we have in Jesus Christ, could be 100% confident that we could always come face to face with God. The only way that you get to experience the attributes and affections of another, and in this case God, is you have to be so closely intimate with them that you become face to face with them. I love it when my daughter lets us have our granddaughter, My granddaughter, she doesn't know anything about boundaries. She doesn't know anything about how to relate. She's just loving and playful. And I mean, she'll get right in your face. And you know how she experiences joy and happiness and connection. It's through the intimacy. It's through the closeness. Here's what Psalm 16 verse 11 says: "Thou wilt show me the path of life, and in thy presence is fullness of joy, and at thy right hand there are pleasures evermore." C.S. Lewis would comment on that and say, what would it be like to taste at the fountainhead that stream of which even these lower reaches prove so intoxicating? Yet that is what lies before us. We long to be acknowledged, to bridge some chasm that yawns, to be the delight of God. For glory means acceptance with God, response, acknowledgement, welcome into the heart of things. In other words, the door we've been knocking on all our lives will open and will be called in and received. You know, Lewis described that. He really said, he's saying to us that when you get this face-to-face with God, you find that it's in Him. That's what you've been looking for all your life. That's the love that Tina Turner was looking for. That's the love that you're looking for. That's the love that I was looking for. You see, every human being needs a kiss. But it's His kiss that you're looking for in every other kiss. Every human being needs a word, but it's His word that you're listening for in every other word. Every human being needs a door opened, but it's His door that's opened to you. It's the one that brings you face to face with Him. You see, you cannot love the way that you were made to love if you're not first transformed by that love. Here's what 1 Corinthians 13 is saying to us. You matter so much to God that He was willing to give up His Son, that He was willing to go through what you went through, lost the presence of God so that you could recover it. And if you're on a journey to find God, if you're on a journey to find joy, if you're on a journey to find peace, if you're on a journey to find love, look no further than Jesus Christ. Turn your heart to Him and give your life to Jesus today.
Hey, I don't know about you, but I'm praying that the experience of the love of Christ really begins to transform our relationships as we experience the love of God together. Let me say this. If we can help you in any way, maybe you need prayer, maybe today you're making a spiritual decision, or you have questions about faith and you'd like to talk with a pastor, you can reach out right now via your cell phone by texting the word pastor to 94090. Again, you can text the word pastor to 94090 and somebody will reach out to you. We'd love to help and serve you in any way that we can. Hey, if Trinity is your church home and this is your time to give faithfully and generously of your tithes and offerings, let me encourage you to do that. The easiest way to do that is online at our website at tbc.org/give. You can also use some of the other means of giving that you see on your screen. Let me encourage you to be back next week. Next week concludes our series, What's Love Got to Do With It? And we're going to finish it out with part 4 in this great series all about growing relationships together. It's been a good day in God's house all online. We'll see you next week.